Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for taking the time to join us today. Peter and I are delighted to be here today to talk in some detail about the proprietary technology which underpins our business and which we believe gives us a significant competitive advantage. But before I hand over to Peter to begin the presentation, a quick introduction from me. My name's Arman. I joined LendInvest as the Chief Operating Officer in 2019, and I have oversight of the technology and operations teams. Peter, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Peter Wallis, VP of Technology at LendInvest. I'm responsible for leading our design, product, engineering, data, and DevOps teams. I joined LendInvest fairly recently in September 2021, following 3 years as CTO at Sporting Group. Now, we believe technology gives us our competitive advantage. However, before I get to the technology itself, I want to begin by talking about the ethos that drives our approach to developing our software and products. As you can see in the middle of this slide, approximately a third of our total headcount work within our engineering, product design, and data teams. We are fortunate to attract extremely talented people from well-known companies, some of whom you can see on this slide, the likes of Facebook, IBM, Barclays, etc. They provide the technology and industry experience that's at the heart of our team, creating the culture for how we develop and deliver our technology. Agile can often mean something very different to different businesses. But for us, the principle of agility is something that's ingrained in our approach to product development. By implementing a microservice-based architecture for our systems, running on best-in-class, secure, cloud-based, elastic infrastructure, we are able to maintain and scale our products much more efficiently than some of our more traditional competitors who are constrained by legacy monolithic technologies. Driving rapid product development and iteration through continuous development and deployment means we're able to efficiently build and release changes, measure the impact, and feed this back into the process in a virtuous cycle of improvements. Fast feedback is the key to the success of this cycle. The average cycle time for a piece of work to get through development, testing, and deployment into our production environment is less than 5 days. We're releasing multiple times a day across our different systems, ensuring that business value is continuously created, a core advantage in this industry. So in the coming sections, I'll give you more detail on our key proprietary systems. This is technology we've developed in-house, and that, although powered by well-known third-party integrations, cannot simply be bought off the shelf or easily replicated as a whole by our competitors. We have 3 core platforms shown here on the slide: Genesis, Loan Engine, and the Investor platform, powered by integrations to over 20 different third-party data and service providers, a selection of whom are provided here, such as Equifax or Rightmove, Jumio, Pepper, etc. During this session, we'll talk through our Genesis loan origination platform. I'll cover off the digital application process. Then Arman will share how we use data to assess our risk of lending during the underwriting process, before covering off the Loan Engine and Investor platforms and the technology roadmap for the next few years. So to start with Genesis, our digital loan origination platform, and how this drives an improved customer journey. Genesis consists of 3 main parts that you can see on this slide. First, an intuitive and interactive customer portal, which allows the submission of a mortgage application electronically in just minutes. Second, an internal administration system that allows us to quickly and efficiently collect data from external sources, driving our assessment of risk and underwriting processes. And finally, a customized CRM system that enables us to digitally process the application form submission through to completion and provides us with a 360 view of our borrowers and brokers, helping us to coordinate and streamline our communications across all parties. So before we begin a more interactive view of Genesis itself, I wanted to describe the loan origination process that it facilitates. The process starts on the left-hand side with the initial inquiry from a broker, where they will provide the basic details of the borrower, property and products they would like from us. We're able to provide instant feedback and a decision in principle to the customer, which includes the products and rates they're eligible for and a representation of the costs of the loan. Now, all being well, the broker then submits a full application electronically in a matter of minutes, which triggers the next stage of the process. Once received, the application is sent to packaging, which is essentially the process of gathering all the necessary information automatically in order for the underwriter to be able to assess the risk of lending and decide whether to proceed to offer, which then continues through to the legal conveyancing and funds release at completion. So now we're going to take a closer look at a few of these steps to demonstrate how the power of the Genesis platform materially enhances the customer experience while providing the operational efficiency to process these loans in a scalable digital manner. I mean, at this stage, I think it's also important to note that Genesis has been designed to cater for the rapid processing of complex loans, built on the deep expertise we have as a company processing these types of cases. Our customers typically have requirements or situations which aren't catered for by the mainstream market and traditional high street lenders. Genesis facilitates the rapid processing of these complex cases without compromising on the quality nor the extent of due diligence carried out. So before we start with the technology demo, a quick sort of caveat. Due to data and GDPR constraints, all the data you'll see during this demo is dummy data. So obviously we've tried to make it as realistic as possible. So let's begin with taking a further look at the customer's view of Genesis. So when a customer logs into the Genesis broker portal, as you can see here on the screen, they're presented with this view, which enables them to begin the application journey, as well as managing and monitoring all their current applications and inquiries. It's being designed and built using the many years of insight we have from successfully working with our customers to ensure we deliver an industry-leading experience. Within the portal, we obviously do all we can to engage and encourage our brokers. Here you can see at the top left, we give them insight into the value of their pipelines and commission that can be earned and share the details for the key contact within LendInvest who's managing their business. Clicking on an application takes us through to the application overview page. Here you can see how we are completely transparent with our customers, sharing and highlighting the progress of the application as it goes through the various sub-stages highlighted across the top, along with all the details of the application and the individuals assigned to manage and underwrite their case. One of our core strengths as a business is the service we provide, and this personalized experience is the key driver of this, dealing with individuals rather than a faceless company, building loyalty and repeat business from our customers. This overview screen provides all the key details of the loan, the security and borrower, and provides the ability to drive into different sections as needed. The platform is designed to be interactive. It allows our customers to message us directly and centralizes all the associated documentation, such as proofs of ID, in a single place for all parties to see. When we need additional information or a response from a broker, these tasks are automatically raised and assigned to the broker, so they can, at a glance, they can understand if they need to take steps and help the progress of their loan application. These are summarized on the portal homepage to ensure efficient ways of working between us and our customers. So now we look at the case from the perspective of an internal LendInvest user using our proprietary Genesis case admin portal. This screen shows you the view of the application that our lending operations team sees. This is the packaging stage that I described earlier, which entails firstly assessing what data needs to be gathered and then collating it so it can be reviewed by the underwriter. So let's take a look at just a few of the details in this case. As you can see, this is an application received for Red Brick Property Limited, which has 3 shareholders listed below, Aaron, Jim, and Ned. Traditionally, to package a typical case like this would be very manual, time-consuming, and an expensive process. You can imagine, for example, having to run multiple packaging tasks, such as credit checks, fraud checks, AML processes, land registry searches, and the like, for each applicant, often having to log into various third-party portals, download a PDF report following each search. Just this data collection process could take days, if not weeks, especially if there's complex company structures involved. Now, Genesis solves this problem. Integrating our proprietary rules engine with over 20 different third-party APIs, we're instantly able to assess what information is required for the case and automatically and digitally acquire it. Let's take, for example, one of the many processes we've automated within the packaging stage, which is the KYC AML checks which have to be run. Now, many of us have been through this process at one point or another when applying for a mortgage, for example, and it can be frustrating and time-consuming. We're often asked for certified copies of a passport or driver's license as a proof of ID, and a recent utility bill or bank statement or council tax bill as a proof of address. Quite often the certification process means having to physically walk into a bank branch or a solicitor's office with your ID so a human can stamp and sign the copy that is a true representation of the original. You then have to scan that copy, attach it to an email, send it through. It's a process which has a significant amount of friction and can take days, if not weeks, to complete. None of this is a particularly good customer experience in this digital age. With Genesis, we've automated this process down to seconds for our internal operations teams and just minutes for our borrowers. In addition, to adhere to best practice on AML, you should allocate an AML risk rating to each case. Our Genesis rules engine is programmed to be aware of our AML risk grading policy and generates a risk rating on the application. In this case, you can see on the screen in the Jumio response that this has automatically been assigned a low AML rating. For those unfamiliar with it, Jumio is one of the third-party services we integrate with and is used to digitally verify a person's identity. The process goes a bit like this. So Aaron receives a request via email or text asking him to upload a picture of his passport together with a selfie to the Jumio service. The AI-powered integration will perform checks to ensure that Aaron is a live person and it's not a video or a picture of a picture. It will also perform multiple checks against the document submitted to ensure it's genuine before certifying the ID and sending the details of the document and the selfie back to Genesis. As you can see here on the screen, we've received Aaron's picture and it has automatically been verified as being a match to the person within the passport picture in the document. The system has also reviewed multiple factors within the passport picture, including the format, watermarks, etc., and has been able to verify that the passport is genuine. The details of the document, the passport number, the name, expiry date, nationality have all been extracted and sent to our rules engine, which has compared them to the details we have for Aaron on the application form. And in turn, this drives a summary status of clear, which you can see in the green bars here across the screen. This is just one of the many packaging processes that Genesis has automated and again reduced from days and weeks down to just purely minutes and seconds. So having pulled together all the data needed for the packaging process, our case moves on to the next stage, the underwriting process, where we will assess the risk and affordability of the loan. Arman will now walk you through how Genesis provides a detailed risk assessment of the application to support this underwriting process. Over to you now, Arman.
Thanks, Peter. So at this stage, we arrive at the risk assessment screen, which you can see here, which is within our Genesis platform and is really the heart of our underwriting process. Now, the traditional method of packaging that Peter described earlier would at this time result in there being reams and reams of PDF documents, scanned copies of bank statements, pay slips, valuations, etc. And the underwriting process would be to crawl through all of these documents one by one, trying to tick off the criteria as you go. These analog legacy processes are hugely time consuming, inefficient, inconsistent, and prone to error. The automated packaging process within Genesis that Peter just showed a part of gathers approximately 100,000 different data points automatically for each case that we process. In order to facilitate the decision, Genesis assimilates this information and summarizes it within this risk assessment screen. As you can see here, all the key data and analysis that has been carried out on the case results in our credit rule check, KYC checks, all the way through to showing the borrower's past and current loan exposure to us and their conduct within those loan terms. Having reviewed the data against set parameters, the rules engine will also give an indication of the perceived credit risk of each of these cases to the underwriter. So let's take a look at this example, Red Brick Property Limited case. Here you can see in the top left, it's given summary details of the case, and you can also see that Genesis has given this case an indicative medium credit risk rating. You can see that in the rules and alerts section, just to the right, that the aggravating factor or the complexity in the case is that Aaron, one of the applicants, has a low indebtedness score. Now, immediately, you look across to Aaron's details on the right side of the screen, you see an exclamation mark and that indebtedness score of 25, which is clearly causing our rules engine a concern. Now, this may well be where a traditional high street lender would stop. There's a credit blip on the case, a complexity, and so the simple answer would be to reject the case. However, what Genesis facilitates is a deeper discovery of why this has occurred, to see if we can understand the risk better, get comfortable with it, and progress the case to an offer. So within a few clicks from this risk assessment screen, the underwriter can see Aaron's specific summarized credit screen within the Genesis admin portal. You can see within this screen that Aaron has income of £34,000 that has been automatically verified by Genesis. And you can also see that he has 21 active credit accounts with a total outstanding debt balance of £134,000. A credit account can be anything from a credit card, an overdraft facility, all the way through to, say, a mortgage. This is all summarized for the underwriter and is allowing them to begin building a better picture of that low indebtedness risk so that they can appropriately assess it. Should the underwriter wish to see the very granular detail of this credit, they can go even a layer deeper to see each of Aaron's credit accounts and month-by-month repayment conduct. So that's just there within a click of a mouse so that, again, they can get a better picture of the complexity found in the case and get to the heart of it very, very quickly. Genesis also allows for an even further insight if needed. And we're one of the very first in our industry to leverage the data that open banking provides in order to be able to better inform our underwriting processes and decisioning. Within a very few steps, we can request and the borrower can grant us access to their accounts, which is again consumed and analyzed within Genesis, and the detail of which can be easily drilled down into by the underwriter to rationalize for that complexity that has been highlighted to them and take the case through to completion. And so here you see, the case is completed. And hopefully you've seen how our technology is really improving the customer experience, removing friction at every step of the process, even in the most complex of the specialist cases we see. We see this as a real competitive advantage. So next, I'll talk you to our internal asset management tool, which we call the Loan Engine. The Loan Engine was built to allow our treasury and finance teams to efficiently monitor, manage, and optimize our fast-growing portfolio of platform assets. The Loan Engine has been developed to be aware of the investment criteria of each of our capital sources and the attributes of each loan we originate, therefore allowing us to have a detailed view of our returns for any given period. That's either at an individual asset level or across any or all of our financial partners and institutional investors. It's also integrated with our third-party service provider, as well as our NetSuite general ledger system, which further allows operating leverage within the finance team. We will, of course, continue to build on top of the successful implementation of our technology in the coming years, and hopefully gain further competitive advantage in our current markets. However, we also believe we can leverage the proven success of our technology to facilitate the launch of even further products and services. This year, for example, we're really excited to be leveraging the work we've already carried out within Genesis to build and launch our specialist homeowner product, targeted at mortgages for homeowners with slightly more complex circumstances than the mainstream high street market will cater for. We also plan to launch a semi-commercial buy-to-let product and a new refurbishment product on our short-term lending side. Next year, we plan to enhance the customer experience within our buy-to-let product line with the delivery of our next generation project. Additionally, we will be launching a number of machine learning predictive models to further improve our operational efficiency and our management of risk. And looking out further to 2024, we'll be looking to build upon the work we've done within our loan engine and CRM to bring parts of our loan servicing in-house and evolve our proprietary technology to manage the full end-to-end borrower experience. Finally, in 2025, we aim to continue to launch new products and hope to bring a long-term fixed rate product to the market in the UK. So hopefully we've been able to give you a good overview of how we've married our deep industry experience, customer feedback, and the latest technology to drive our business forward, giving our customers and investors a market-leading experience, as well as delivering considerable operational efficiencies. Now, at this point, we'll take any questions from the floor.
Great, thank you, gentlemen. That's very clear, very helpful use of materials and examples as well. We have a number of questions that have already come in. I'll remind people who are watching, if you want to submit any more, just use the Q&A function. Right, firstly, looking at Genesis, and as you made very clear, the whole purpose of LendInvest, when it was created many years ago, was to improve on what has been historically a very slow, manual, inconsistent process. So we have a question here. Have you found any resistance from the intermediaries, such as brokers or solicitors in the legal part of the process, who might be afraid that they're actually contributing to a disintermediation of what they are providing in the way of services?
I'll take that one. I think it's a good question. And often when we refer to our customers, we're referring both to the broker and to the end borrower. And lots of the friction that we are removing from the process is for the broker just as much as it is for the borrower. And what we've seen as we've rolled out the technology, particularly around the packaging that Peter described, is that once the brokers see that it makes their lives easier as well as the brokers, they're very bought in to the process and become advocates of the technology. So we see it very much as a partnership. We actually use them as sounding boards as we iterate our technology, and it's a very collaborative process to building that end-to-end journey.
Okay, that makes sense. And then looking at the loan engine, we have a question on how much you might be personalizing and what's the process of identifying the different criteria, risk management preferences for capital providers. And the questioner wants to know if it's a one-off process where you interview them at the start and identify what their loan selection criteria are, or is it a more evolved process where you have an algorithm that reflects changing conditions?
I think it's a twofold process with the loan engine. Firstly, as we set up new funding streams and partners, we obviously code in the criteria within that separate account, be it or funding partners criteria. The loan engine allows us to perform complex what-if analysis to be able to optimize our loan allocation to each of those accounts. However, what our automation also allows us to do is gather hundreds of thousands of bits of data that we can then leverage to speak to our funding partners to optimize their accounts. And quite often that is a data-led discussion between our capital markets team and those third parties around product creation all the way through to loan allocation.
Okay, thank you. And then we have a question on the other side of the fence, as it were, in terms of borrowers. And you have, as a group, a number of products aimed at the self-employed or freelance individuals, which is historically a difficult area to encompass full affordability checking and income verification. Can you say, on a top-down view, how much you've been able to automate of that process? And will that use of further automation continue further down the line?
Well, as described earlier in our roadmap, our very next product is specifically targeted at that demographic. So our specialist long-term residential product, which is due to be released later this year, will very much try and remove the friction that those customers, the self-employed, those with credit demerits, or with complex incomes. And we hope to remove the friction for them to gaining a mortgage. Now, as you'll have seen, lots of that will be in the automated credit checking that we do that allows an underwriter to get to the heart of the complexity and understand it. But obviously, we'll also be further leveraging our open banking. And this removes the need for, hundreds of bits of paper and pay slips and SA 302 tax returns to be passed around from the broker to borrower to us, and automates that step and also removes a lot of time in the friction that we remove. So hopefully we enter that market and remove that friction and get a significant market share by providing a better service than is currently out there with the more traditional lenders.
Okay, no, thank you very much. We have a number of questions on your competition. I'll try and take them, I think, one by one is probably the easiest way. So firstly, what would you say are the key differentiators that LendInvest have been able to achieve so far relative to other providers?
Peter, do you want to?
I think just to take this one, obviously in the presentation we covered the automation that we have in collecting all the data from third-party providers. Even though this may seem well, it's just plugging into a bunch of APIs. There's quite a lot of devil in the detail there. There's a lot of use cases that you have to encode within the rules engine to make sure that you're presenting the data in the right way for the decisions to be made, and being able to effectively leverage the experience that our underwriters have and encode some of that in those rules means that we can actually make them much more efficient and focused on the really, really difficult, unusual cases, whereas actually the more slightly less complex ones can be dealt with much more on an exception-based process. So it is really the advantage is about the combination of people experience and underwriting coupled with technology encoded in specific rules that really gels together to make the system work.
Okay, and following on from that, would you therefore be more nervous about incumbents who have been operating in this market for a number of years, or do you think a most likely threat is another challenger that might come along and do a LendInvest on LendInvest, as it were? And related to that, where would you say, as much as you can in terms of years, how far do you think you are ahead of potential competition because of all the years and investment that you've made so far?
Well, I think we see that we obviously compete with a broad spectrum of different companies, from challenger banks, high street lenders, specialist lending companies, and they're all moving at slightly different paces. They all have slightly different ways of addressing the market. So I think I'll come back to the point that it might be easy to replicate parts of the picture, but actually to get the whole working, where you're leveraging the experience of the individuals and underwriting the case and understanding, and assessing the risk, coupled with the technology and the availability of the data very quickly from the point of the application being submitted, that gives us that speed and certainty of decision, which is what the brokers and the borrowers want. They don't want to be having to submit lots of different applications to different companies and not being sure, if they're going to progress with any of them. What they really want is that certainty of, yes, I can see that product that you're offering. Am I going to be a good fit from it? Can I have a decision quickly? If it looks likely, then let's invest some time in getting that process done. Whereas, I think a lot of experience in the market is that there's just a lot of delays, and it takes a long time to get to that point where you're sure whether this is going to progress or not, whether it's waiting for valuations on the securities and properties, or whether it's waiting for other parts of the process to complete. So I think that's where the collection of all the data electronically coupled with experience gives us that speed and advantage that we have over many of the incumbents.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. And final question, following on again from that, in terms of the IP you've created and the experience, we have someone inquiring whether that will only be used in-house, as it were, or whether this technology asset is something that you might sell on a licensed or a white label basis to providers in other large markets. I suppose typically America might be the point of the question, or may well be that the group strategy is to become a global provider anyway. But do you think the IP could be sold on?
Arman, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, well, of course, the way that we build our technology is not only scalable, but it's also has interfaces that make it very easy for people to integrate with. And naturally, having a reputation for our technology the way we do, we are, in discussions at various times with people that are looking to leverage our know-how and our technology. As we build our technology, we keep that in mind. And of course, as people, as people approach us to discuss any partnership opportunities, we of course keep an open mind as to what those opportunities could be. And should the right partner come along, absolutely, it would be the right thing to do at the right time.
Great. And we just had one late question. Again, I suppose in terms of diversifying the model, just an inquiry whether your technology could be applied on a similar basis to conveyancing within the property exchange market as opposed to just financing.
The end-to-end customer journey obviously goes through that packaging stage, through the underwrite, and then a large part of that is within the conveyancing. As described earlier, we work really closely with our solicitors and our solicitor panel to try and take as much friction out of that as possible. We're just currently, at the latter stages of a large integration to do with making better inroads and removing friction throughout that conveyancing process. And it's something we're constantly monitoring, because we do quite often hear from feedback from our customers that it is a large part of the process that needs a significant overhaul. And we're doing our best right now to use our technology to hopefully impact that.
Great. Well, and a very, very useful session indeed. So thanks to all of our watchers and for the questions, and of course to Arman and Peter for a very clear presentation. And a final reminder, you can watch this again, should you wish to, on various channels, such as the LendInvest website, the Equity Development website. And both of those sites also have analysis on the group as a whole and its objectives, and further management presentations about the strategy that I'm sure you will find very interesting. But thank you again, gentlemen.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.